We finally have new details about documents the FBI seized at Mar-a-Lago earlier last month as part of an investigation into Donald Trump's potential violations of the Espionage Act and the Presidential Records Act. Okay, here's a refresher. Trump railed against the FBI's execution of a legally issued search warrant and filed for the appointment of what's called a special master, which would examine the documents for attorney-client privileged information. But here's the thing. The Justice Department already did that. So Judge Aileen Cannon, who is considering the request for a special master, well, on Thursday, she demanded in a hearing that the FBI's property receipt be unsealed. We now know the FBI found 18 documents marked top secret, 54 documents marked secret, 31 documents marked confidential, 48 empty folders with classified banners, and more than 10,000 unclassified artifacts. I'm talking about documents including photos, articles, clothing, even gifts and books. That is in addition to the more than 300 classified documents recovered from Mar-a-Lago before the FBI executed the search warrant on August 8th. So joining me now to discuss it all is our legal panel. Charlie Savage is here. He is an MSNBC contributor and Washington correspondent for the New York Times. And Joyce Vance is also back. She is an MSNBC legal analyst and former U.S. attorney. Welcome to you both. Charlie, I want to start with you because the Justice Department said in its filing to Judge Cannon that Donald Trump's request was, quote, is unnecessary and would significantly harm important governmental interests, including national security interests. I am very interested in your take on this. Could a special master actually be harmful to the investigation and the government's interests?
It depends on how broad the mandate that special master had and whether the judge stopped the government from doing what it's doing while the special master did his or her work. If they stopped the government from doing what they're doing, I'm sure the Justice Department would immediately appeal. The government is not just looking at these documents for the purpose of this criminal investigation into the mishandling of documents with national security secrets, obstruction, and concealment of government-owned records. It is also separately looking at it to conduct a risk assessment of the damage to national security that would ensue if any of this information has been compromised, which they don't know, while it was kind of sitting in an insecure way at Mar-a-Lago. And it's further doing an assessment of what the classification status of these records actually are. Of course, Trump has claimed improbably that he had a standing order to declassify everything. So they're going to look at that. They're going to look at what evidence there is. They're going to try to understand it, not just for the 100 or so documents that were marked as classified, but for the 11,000 plus other government-owned records that took out that did not have classification markings. So any of those efforts could be disrupted.
Any of them. Okay, so Joyce, even Bill Barr, okay, the former attorney general under Donald Trump, even he says that you do not need a special master in this case. Now, the Justice Department says they already did this work. They did it. They weeded out the stuff. It's fine. Where do you think Judge Cannon should come down on this issue?
Legally, there's no question of where she should come down. Special masters are used in cases where attorneys' offices are searched. And of course, in an attorney's office, you would expect to find a lot of attorney-client privileged material. Some of it perhaps relating to the investigation that's underway, but a great deal of it belonging to third parties who simply aren't involved. So the use of an outside special master to preserve the privilege in those cases makes a lot of sense. And it's done, I don't want to say frequently, Simone, but it's done when it's necessary. This is not that situation. This is not an attorney's office. There's every indication that the filter team has done a good job of preserving a very limited quantity of attorney-client privileged material that was in the 45 office. There's no evidence that DOJ has handled this other than with the utmost integrity. And so if Judge Cannon looks at both the legal basis for doing this and the factual circumstances, she won't order a special master in this case. But she's already indicated that that may be where she's headed. That feels more like a Solomonic judgment, trying to split the baby and make everyone happy, than it feels like one that's grounded in the law and the facts.
You know, Joyce, I watch a lot of television and read a lot of articles, and this is the first I heard that the special master is more appropriate in a case where an attorney's office is searched. So thank you for making that make sense. Maybe then you could shed some light on something else for me, because in its August 30th filing, the Justice Department said, and let me get this down for you, that classified documents were likely concealed and removed before the FBI could retrieve them. Now, we do know that dozens of empty folders with classified markings were found in the August search. That was made clear from what the judge asked for on Thursday. How exactly would the Justice Department go about proving the conceal and removal of these documents? How can they prove what they said?
So if DOJ has already said that and put it forward in pleadings and presumably in more detail in the search warrant, they likely already have that information together. And some of it could come from individuals who were involved and who saw this process ongoing. We don't know details, and it can be dangerous to speculate, but something that has caught my attention is this recently unsealed information from the District of Columbia. And when you put everything that we've now seen together, it sounds like in June, when DOJ officials were at Mar-a-Lago, they were able to physically observe a large number of boxes in storage that they believed could contain classified material and needed to be searched. But when they executed the search warrant, there were about 15 or 20 fewer boxes than they had expected present. So whether that gives rise to the inference that something has been moved, or whether that's simply a fact that would require some more detail to explain it and is innocuous and not important, we don't know. But DOJ will hunt down all of the details. I think what everyone has discussed, Simone, is that there should be some form of official record keeping regarding what Trump retained and what he returned. And hopefully DOJ will be able to match that with empty folders. Ideally, they'll find the information that belongs in those folders elsewhere at Mar-a-Lago. Otherwise, this becomes an all hands on deck sort of exercise.
Now, Charlie, I do believe it matters that so many classified documents were being held in Mar-a-Lago. It was crazy for me to see those photos earlier that week. There are laws in place that make taking or the concealment of government records a crime, regardless of the national security status. So how should that inform the way we discuss the thousands of documents without classification markings that were found in Mar-a-Lago? The photos, the pictures, the clothing.
Right. Well, that's right. These even the unclassified stuff that Trump had did not belong to him. It belonged to the United States government, should have been deposited with the National Archives when he left office. And the National Archives was trying to get it back starting May of 2001. And then at one point was told, you can come pick up this stuff in January. And they took out 15 boxes. But now we learn 11,000 more documents that they were not given. And I think that underscores part of the predicate for saying that there was evidence of obstruction at Mar-a-Lago, which we saw in the search warrant affidavit and application, because the effort by the National Archives to do its job to retrieve government property that did not belong at Mar-a-Lago, did not belong to Mr. Trump, was thwarted, and perhaps through deception, if they were told they were getting everything in January. Simone?
Yes, it is. These are not his documents. There's a photo I wanted to take out of my office when I worked at the White House, and they told me it did not belong to me and it needs to stay put. Let's move to January 6th, because Donald Trump said something this week that I thought was very jarring, and it's not getting as much attention. But he said this about potential pardons for Capitol rioters. He's talking about some people that he says he met with and that he's even financially supporting. Take a listen to this.
So I met with a number of times, but I met with, and I'm financially supporting people that are incredible. It's a disgrace what they've done to them. What they've done to these people, it's disgraceful. I will tell you, I will look very, very favorably about full pardons. If I decide to run and if I win, I will be looking very, very strongly about pardons.
Amen.
Full pardons.
The former president went on to say that he would accompany those pardons with an apology to many of the Capitol rioters as well. Joyce, what is your response to hearing this?
Well, certainly he's not a president who supports law enforcement, given that he plans on pardoning people who violently confronted and attacked folks in law enforcement who were defending the Capitol that day. But look, Simone, this is just standard fare for Trump. He's back to dangling pardons in an effort to keep people on his side. And perhaps the most dangerous part of what's going on here is something we really don't talk about enough, but it's Trump's ongoing effort to delegitimize law enforcement, his effort to convince his base, and I'm sure in his mind other people, that the Justice Department is corrupt, that the FBI is acting against him out of political animus. And of course, that sets up, as this investigation moves forward, the theme that he will continue to trot out. And it's a very dangerous moment in this country where you have a powerful figure who has a megaphone strapped to his mouth every time he opens it, trying to convince people that they can't trust our criminal justice system, because we rely on that system day in and day out to keep our communities safe, to make sure that people are held accountable, and to have a former president delegitimizing that to help himself out down the road is really a dangerous place for this country to be.
Absolutely. The system is not perfect. It definitely has flaws, but Donald Trump is doing something unprecedented. Charlie Savage, Joyce Vance, thank you both very, very much.